Okay, this is a SaaS model, and it is my pride and joy today because this is intense. Now, I've started this whole thing from scratch. This whole entire spreadsheet was blank this morning. Now it's completely full, and it's got some really cool stuff, and it's really simple to follow. So, as a SaaS, you have subscribers, and you have MRR and churn. You got cost of sales, expenses, just like a regular business, and earnings. But the assumptions and growth rates and costs modeled out are really hard, and everybody has their different way to do it. Well, I believe I've figured out a really simple way to model out your plan of action. So let's just start at the beginning. First things first is this thing runs off a starting sub amount. So let's say you start at 250. It starts you at 250, and then you have your growth rate for each month for each year. So here we're saying, well, year one we're going to grow at 20% a month. Year two, 10%. Year three, 4%. 3.5, 3.2. So these numbers, you got your starting subs, you got what you've added, what you've lost in churn, and then your ending subs. And it goes through in time. I've gone out 5 years for all of this data. So at the end of the day, we end up with 3,671 subs here. We've got added 117 for the month, lost 110, and we're holding steady there. Now you can have these rates be whatever you want. You could have the churn be whatever you want to model out. You can have the growth at whatever you want. Let's say we want year one at 50% and year two at 30, and then it kind of falls off to 10, 5, 5. Well, look at the growth. Now you're adding a lot more compared to how much you're losing. And notice the churn is actually a percentage of the starting subs. So you're saying of the total subs you have for that month, what percentage are you going to churn? So you go all the way down here. Now look, 1.3 million subs because we had such a high growth at the beginning. So now we're at 1.3. We've added 67,000 for the month. We've lost 40 because our churn and our sub growth and churn are kind of 5% growth, 3% loss. So these are kind of close here. You could have these be whatever you want, though. You could make the churn 0.5. Then look, you're only churning in year 5. Now look at, you're barely churning anything. So let's box this. So that's how the subscribers part works. Next up we have revenue. Now revenue is just, I've done it for only one product. It can easily be added, so you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many SaaS products you want with MRR. I can add it, no problem. I've just started really simple here, just having one product, so it just takes the starting MRR times the starting subs, or I'm sorry, times the starting MRR takes the ending subs times your monthly revenue per account for year one, and it goes year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could change that. And like I said, I could set it up so there's multiple. So you have basically, you could have it so there's one thing of subs at the top, then you have 3 breakdowns of however many subs are at your enterprise level, basic level, or pro level. And then you could also have what the revenue is for each of those broken out. But this is just the basic level of saying here's subs, here's the revenue per account. So we've got MRR for the month, what you've added, based on the subs you've added, what you've lost, and your ending monthly recurring revenue. And then that goes through. So you can see here, well, if you have 2.3 million subs, or sorry, 2.4 million ending, you're going to have an ending monthly recurring revenue of 123 million. And obviously this would be a major, likely a publicly traded company or just a major corporation in the world, if you're getting that big. But adding 5.8 million a month, losing 580,000. So that's pretty basic. There's nothing really new or innovative about how I've set that up. It's just, pretty clean and simple measure. You can have your sub start at 0 if you want, or you can put your starting subs for the month, for your first month, at 10, 50, whatever, and it'll update. Next up, we have expenses. Now, I've made expenses so they're running off of margin determinations. So here I've put cost margin. I put, you can put a different cost margin for each year and it will update accordingly. So I got first year 30%, which means, it means you're going to have a 70% gross margin. So you have your sales minus your cost of sales, which would be 70%, and you're left with 30%. So here it's gone, cost of sales are 30% of the $2,520 of MRR that we got for the month, which is how much you had and how much you've added and lost. So basically this is just saying this is a net build for the month. And your margin is 30%, $756. Now I've kind of added it so we've got executive salary, sales. This is the innovative part, I think. I've got this set so these salaries of these people per month are based on a percentage of the, obviously it's going to be based on revenue. So let's put this back up to 250. So basically it's saying, well, you've got $3,800 to split up between the executives, 38 between here, salesmen, 38 between customer service, 38 between marketing, R&D, and so on. And that's all set by these boxes here. So say you want executives to not have anything for the first year, you put 0. And there, executive salary is now 0 for the first year. Year 2, they're now a percentage based on that box, and it goes up and up and up. So at the end of the thing here, you say, well, if you got 123 million, you want to allocate 6 million to between the executives, 12 million between the salesmen, 14 million between all the customer service, and all that. And you can make those percentages whatever you want. I've just have basically placeholders here. But you can put every year what you want each of your cost categories to be as a percentage of total revenue. Now I haven't seen anybody else do it this way, so I think that was very interesting, and it's why I think this model has a lot of value for projecting out your plan for your startup. Okay, so next we have our total expenses and then our earnings before income tax, depreciation, and expense. It's a negative here because, well, we only made $12,000 for the month and we spent $22,000, so negative. And you can see this takes till, well, actually the first of the year, and then it gets starts going positive, and that's mainly because I've got the expenses here going from 30% down to 20 for, so year 1's kind of heavy, year 2 you start making some money. Now going down further, I've added cash flow, and this has really gone far and beyond what I've ever seen. So you got your starting bank balance and your financing. Now this financing is actually plugged into the financing amortization schedule, and it's going here and saying what your payments, interest, and principal is on that loan based on a loan term, and it is actually able to break out what the debt service is for the given year, and it's all going to be based on this schedule. So it gives you the debt service. Also, when we're talking about the corporate income tax is adding back the interest paid for the period. So, and it is able to, so if, say, the year, this is a 5-year model, but say I only want to do financing for 3 years. Well, look at this. It's going to have your debt service for year 1, 2, and 3, and then look at this. In year 4, it has, the formula has it going back to 0. As you see there, that's a formula. It's not hard coded in. So we've got our formula going back to 0 since there's no more debt service. We paid off the loan, and the corporate income tax breaks out the amount of interest paid each period, so that you're only being taxed on, you're only getting a tax break from interest, and it's adding back in the principal payment to your net cash in to get your corporate tax amount. I've also had a schedule here for corporate tax rate by year. So you could say year one, well, you're not going to make any money, so it's 0%. Year two, if you make over 200 and some thousand, it's 39. And then if you make up over 300-ish, it's 34%. And that is all taken into account in this corporate tax rate. So it's pretty granular in the ability of it to project out what your tax liability is given to certain cash flows. And then finally, you have your ending bank balance. So this is just taking your starting balance, filtering everything in. So here you've got obviously financing in month one. You've got debt service, and then you've got net cash in of $38,000. And then you've got negative $10,000 for net tax after cash, because that's saying, well, you lost $10,136. You have no corporate tax because you've lost money. So that goes against what you financed and what you have in the bank starting. So say you had $5,000 in the bank, finance 50, so you got 55. You're minusing that from the 10,000 to get 43. As you can see here, that should be, so 55,000 less this, less your debt service. And there you see that number is the number that we got in that formula. So that goes all the way over. So you can play around with these percentages and kind of get a feel. Now I've added some charts to this as well, so some visuals. The first one just shows your net cash after tax compared to the revenue for each year. So you see your revenue's only, well, 67 million, 300 million, 600 million, 1 billion, and then it takes your actual cash that you're keeping after taxes. So on 1 billion, you're only keeping 271 million. Then we've got our financing to bank balance. So this is showing your financed amount over here. So say 50,000, and then these cash flows are saying what your ending bank balance is over time and taking into account. So really, you see the cash doesn't start to grow until about year 3, which is common. And then you get this growth, and this growth is simply based on our percentages that we've put in here. So let's tone this back down to 20 and 15. See what this looks like. Now you're down to 14 million, 15 million for annual revenue for 2020, and 3 million you get to keep after taxes and expenses and debt service and everything else. So, and what you should see is this percentage that you get to keep is growing as you don't have any more debt service. Now, it's not a huge factor because here you're only borrowing 50,000. But this is the model, and I feel like it's anybody could put numbers in here, anybody could understand it. It's got some complexity with the financing, but it's really made it simple in the fact that you can see how it's pulling those financing numbers. And let's see, if we only go year 1 here, we should only see debt financing for year 1. You can see $4,200 a month, and then it falls off. So now your cash is being raised. You're getting 4,000 more in cash flow. You paid back the loan and paying some income tax because you've got profit on your EBITDA, and your ending bank balance is still negative. Note that, see, this ending bank balance is taking into account all the cash flows that are going on every month and building that up. So you could see over time that starts to go negative, and so it starts these finance 50, 55. So your bank is actually negative. So you need, so this helps you know. Let's say you obviously don't want a negative bank balance, so you need to borrow more money based on the assumptions you've put in. So 100,000. Let's see if that keeps you positive. Nope, you still got a bunch of months where you're still running a deficit. let's say 250,000. Where does that get you? You're still going down, 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 down. Oh, down to $1,000 in December of 16, and then you finally turn the corner. You've paid off the loan, and you're starting to make money now. And you go up and up and up, and you can see the ending cash balance, $10 million here. You're making about $1 million a month. Or sorry, you're expensing about $1 million a month. You're making about 1.6 million a month, so you're keeping 500,000 here on the last month of the 5-year model. I love this thing. This is really cool, and it's universal. It's not really it's built so it can be implemented into pretty much any startup that's going to have subscribers and a monthly recurring revenue. And you can have financing. You don't even have to have financing if you don't want any. You just put in 0 here, and you're not financing anything. And then obviously you're running a deficit because these percentages are expenses end up being more than what you're making. But you could also alter that and kind of scale in however you want to set up your assumptions. All right, that's all I got for you. Hold on. I do have a yearly summary. So here it shows it's taking the numbers from the primary based on these monthly dates and aggregating everything, so you can see your monthly subs added, subs lost, net new subs, and annual ending subs. So here obviously 33,000 is where you're ending up, and that should correspond to the last month here, which it does, 33,567 ending subs for December 20th. So saying on that date you currently have 33,000 active subs. Then you've got your revenue summary. It shows your ending MRR for each year, and then it also shows your amount of MRR added through the year, amount lost, your net new annual recurring revenue, and your ending monthly recurring revenue. Then I also added the annual revenue, so this is just summing up all the revenue for each month for the year, for each year. Then we've got expenses. Same thing. This is simply taking your expense cost totaled for each year. And you got your EBITDA matches up with that, which it should. And you got your percentages, and then you got your after-tax cash flow. Now the one thing I have not added here is some valuation things, and I can do that, and I'll probably will just tack it onto this model when I get some time. But I'll add it so you can see your I'm going to use the Gordon model to show your loan lifetime value of a customer over their customer acquisition cost. So that's going to say for how much it's taking you to gather one customer, how much revenue are you getting out of that customer over its lifetime. And it uses some discounting, cash flow with growth, and then it's interesting to see. Usually startups are supposed to have about an 8.5-ish loan to or lifetime value to customer acquisition cost. So every customer they acquire for that costs them $1, they get $8 in return over the lifetime. And that is based on your sales and marketing costs. So you have sales here and marketing here. It's that number. Let me think here. So that's the amount. That's the cost, and then you got your lifetime value is a growth. Hold on, let me go look at the sheet. Stand by. Okay, I got it. So you do the net revenue over the sales and marketing, and that ratio will give you a number that you can discount and grow against each other. And when you do that and you get a total net present value of around 8.58, that's considered your lifetime value over CAC ratio. So let's say month one, let's just say month one is you spend 200, let's say $20 to make it simple. You spend $20 in sales and marketing, and that gets you $30 of revenue. Your ratio is then 0.66. So that's saying for every $20 or every, hold on, I might need to reverse that. Sorry, I hadn't prepared this part, so I'm not. So that's saying if you make $30 for every $20 spent, you're getting $1.5 of revenue for every $1 spent. Now, if you project that out and say, these numbers, these revenue numbers or net cash numbers grow at a certain rate, and your costs, or no, let's say your overall ratio changes over a current rate. Well, hold on, let me get back to it. Okay, here we go. I got it now. So let's say you make $30 and you spent $50 on marketing. So you're making 0.6. Your ratio is 0.6. Now if you grow that at a certain rate and also discount the value of that growth over time as well, if you add up all the discounts through time, because obviously when you get to, like, say, year 300, your discount is going to make the value zero no matter how well, as long as it's growing at a smaller rate than the discount rate. And when you take the sum of all those, that gives you your LTV to CAC cost. It's really, now I can model that and take that into account with these revenues based on the yearly summary, the revenue, and then I have to take the costs of sales and marketing, and then the annual revenue, and figure out how much revenue is being created based on that spend to get the customer acquisition cost. And then it's complicated, but it is one way to kind of gauge when you're ready to go public, if that's what you're trying to do. If you're not trying to go public, well, it really doesn't matter. It just shows your efficiency in sales and marketing spend, so it's not that important. I haven't added any valuations here, like a multiple, any kind of multiple valuation or anything like that. I think that really gets overstated, and you can try to value something, but it's hard with a startup. Even if you discount the cash flow at 70%, it's just hard. But this is more for purpose of planning out your cash flows and your percentages and your costs, and I think it's a really innovative way that is doing that. Alright, if you do want to get this model from me, I'll email it to you. Click the link below. It is going to cost you, because to get this in this format, I know, well, I mean, the minimum is probably like $300 to get this if you go out into the freelancing world. So that's what I'm charging for now, and you can get it. It'll be everything that you see here. Everything's editable. You can see how everything works, and I'll also go through and explain with you one-on-one if you need explanations of anything or want to add stuff. If you want me to make adjustments or additions, I do charge a $30 an hour rate on top of anything that goes outside the scope of this. What I will not charge you extra for is adding up to 3 more product levels. So I'll give you the ability to have like basic, pro, and enterprise level pricing for your model, and I won't charge. Alright, I guess that's about it. Have a great day.